Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to VALORANT News. Plenty of big updates today, including Sinatraa getting offered a 6-figure contract to go to India and play professional VALORANT in, I suppose, the Tier 2 or even Tier 3 scene. Probably will turn down this offer, but potentially indicative of more offers to come his way, with Rostermania following up in Tier 2, especially with FaZe not bringing in Neptune as we previously expected. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Plenty of updates to give you guys today. Firstly, on the Scrimbux side of things, there's been a lot happening here. I'll just zoom in to give you guys all the details. So we've got M80 versus Cloud9, 17-3 in M80's favor here. That is rather impressive. Honestly, like there's so much happening in the last few days. As I say every time here, 13, they don't play to 13 in this. They just play all the 24 rounds. But yes, M80 were considered initially probably the strongest team in Tier 2. That was the expectation. Then we thought, okay, maybe it's now the Guard, or maybe it's G2. But I think those are the three favorite teams I would say to win challenges, get to Ascension and win Ascension as well and qualify. But yeah, Cloud9 being down 3-17 to them is interesting. But I mean, look, it's all over the shop here. It might be Cloud9's first game as a team playing a certain map potentially. And we've also got 100 Thieves that are up 17-5 on FaZe. And we don't know the full FaZe team. Okay, Poise, Dicey, babybay. But you know, I think Neptune was meant to be there as well. But it turns out that Neptune's now not going to be there anymore. So there's some questions about that. Also on the bottom left hand side, you guys can see here that SR are beating NRG 7-0. So you know, definitely interesting to see that a lot of these Tier 2 teams are not exactly better than the Tier 1 teams. I doubt that's the case, but we see various results here in scrims. But I do think that you know, some of these Tier 1 teams, if there was a big tournament between, you know, SR, M80, you know, chuck the Guard in there, chuck G2 in there with the Tier 1 teams, like I think it would be much closer than we believe. But maybe it's almost expected, even based on what we saw at the Ludwig Tarek Invitational, where Sentinels came third and T1 came fourth, with the Guard and TSM being the two teams that made the finals. There's also this one if we zoom in big time. Okay, I'll show that one in a second for you guys. But on the right hand side, we've got G2, they're up 7-5. But then also it's kind of small, we've got Sentinels up 7-0 on M80. So, you know, M80 destroying Cloud9, and then M80 down 7-0 to Sentinels. It's like, I don't know what's happening anymore. It's only scrims, is all I can say at the end of the day at this point. But maybe Sentinels are rather better than Cloud9 if you want to look at it from that perspective. This is the other one though, because Cloud9 now are 12-1 up against 100 Thieves. So yeah, it's really weird. It's like, okay, scrims, they don't really mean that much at the end of the day. I just thought it was weird that M80 were beating Cloud9 17-3, and then Sentinels were beating M80 7-0, and then Cloud9 are beating 100 Thieves 12-1. So, you know, just one of these things that happens on occasion. You never really know in scrims anyway, because the teams might be practicing different ideas. They're not necessarily, like, scrims aren't necessarily about trying to win necessarily the scrim. It's all about trying to, you know, practice new things and understand new ways to approach situations. They might have gone into the scrim 100 Thieves and said, okay, look, we're just going to work on our B holds here. Like, I don't care what happens today, don't care what happens at mid or whatever. Let's just work on this B setup. And if they happen to go every round and do an execute, then it is what it is. Also, big news here. This was rumored a while ago. I think George Geddes put an article out, but yeah, VCT partnered team skins are coming. This, of course, was expected at some point, but you know, the rumor is that there's going to be like one kind of skin with a load of variants for all the different teams that are in partnership. So pretty cool stuff. It's only a matter of time. I imagine that the teams will get a part of that revenue, which is pretty cool. And they could even do crowdfunding on this, right, and put some of the revenue towards the World Championship prize pool. But we'll see if they decide to do something like that, as other esports have done successfully in the past. Let's talk Tier 2, of course, Virtuoso. They've had a good run, but unfortunately it's coming to the end for them. They couldn't quite qualify through the LCQ or the first qualifier, so the players and I guess the kind of the free agency organization that they were are moving in separate directions. So unfortunate to see, but you know, inevitable, right, given the way this works this season, and there's no second chance, right? This is the last chance. There's no mid-season promotion relegation situation. Let's speaking about G2 on the ShahZaM side though, because he was on stream last night discussing briefly the fact that Bind and Breeze, the two maps that have been removed from the pool in Tier 1, are still there in Tier 2. And there was these discussions over the last couple of weeks or so as to exactly what was the case here, what maps were going to get played, you know, what the map pool was going to be. Turns out that Breeze and Bind are going to stay in the Challenges map pool for the first 2 weeks. So the Challenges start on the 1st of February, so very soon indeed. And after those first 2 weeks of matches, then Sao Paulo begins for the pro scene at the same time. So I guess the idea is they're going to play on the old map pool with Breeze and Binds until the pro scene starts, or until the Tier 1 scene starts in the middle of February. And then at that point, everyone's going to move over to the new map pool, I'm guessing, which is minus Breeze, minus Binds, plus Split is back in, and I'm guessing then Lotus is in as well. So, I'm assuming that's what the pros have been practicing on the last few days in Tier 1, but yeah, it's a bit tricky. I guess this makes sense in a way because a lot of the Challengers teams that have just qualified a few days ago, they played on the old map set with Breeze and Binds, such that after qualifying, about a week later, they've now got to play on a new map set. Maybe doesn't feel right. So I think the idea is practice on all the maps is what the pros are doing, I think, at the moment. Just getting ready for Breeze and Bind, and still can play this for the first couple of weeks, but now they can start to bring in their practice the other maps, the split return of Split, then Lotus coming in as well to the competitive queue. ShahZaM gives some more insight here, saying, we had a constant line of communication with Knights Arena, who's kind of running the Tier 2 circuit in North America. They said the decision was still up in the air until it was confirmed yesterday. Yes, we read the article, so there was an article that came out that implied this would be the case, but there was a lot of discussion between the teams, and it's now been confirmed that that's the plan there. So yes, that's the case for the first couple of weeks. Then the map pool will change quite significantly, it's got to be said, in about the middle of February. Let's talk Tier 2 Rostermania then. Firstly, from Neptune, big deal this. Sad to say, we're looking for a team. VALORANT FA, any role, ready to work, ready to win. So, of course, yesterday we saw that Rossi, after having not made it on the nation to qualify, was immediately snapped up by a certain pro team. And then coincidentally, we've then got Neptune announcing looking for a team, despite the fact that Neptune, I thought, was going to be on FaZe. He was rumoured to be their kind of fifth player. I think Effie's that name was thrown around, that it was going to be Neptune, and there's been some interesting developments over there at FaZe. Turns out not the case. I think Superman is going to round out their team with the guys that we saw earlier on in the video, but now we've got to raise the question as to whether Rossi has here been signed, because yesterday we saw that, okay, the qualifier was over, he was looking for a team, then about a few hours later, largely, maybe in part at least, courtesy to this tweet from Willminder, or, well, a tweet just like this from Willminder, putting Rossi as the top performing initiator in the Challengers LCQ, played very well for the nation team, of course, throughout the entire tournament, and he was very quickly snapped up by a certain team. He then tweets this out, okay, blue, red, black, or white, whatever, trying to tease which organization he might be joining, but yeah, I just would wonder here, given the circumstances, that coincidentally Rossi has just been signed, and then Neptune's just been dropped, like, the stars might align potentially for Rossi to FaZe, which might make sense, because FaZe are the only team out of the entirety of Tier 2 that haven't yet confirmed their roster. The hype is now entirely gone, to be honest, for their roster, but they were still making changes last minute, which doesn't necessarily bode too well for them, because if you think about it, right, a lot of the other teams in Tier 2 have been practicing for ages, right? They've had weeks, if not months, of practice at this point under their belt. FaZe have been messing around with their roster until the last minute, and making changes right before the start of the season doesn't necessarily bode well for their beginning of the year, but it doesn't matter so much really for these top teams theoretically, because all you've got to do is get top 8 over the course of the Challenger season, then you make Ascension, then you can qualify for Tier 1. So the start of the season doesn't matter that much, especially because there's no relegation, but nonetheless it is relatively important. Now the other thing we've got to talk about today is this whole Sinatraa story, because of course he wasn't on the nation, he was on Untamable Beasts, that Kraken team there with the last chance qualifier that didn't quite make it. Now he's been offered a 6-figure deal, which look, 6 figures isn't really that substantial, we'll see in a second, to play Valorant in India under this organization God's Reign. Now I'm not too familiar with this organization. If you guys know more about it, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. But these are the details from that supposed offer that Sinatraa has received here, saying that Sinatraa has received an offer equivalent to about $144,000 a year to play for their Valorant team. Now I don't think this necessarily kind of includes medical, travel, hospitality and all this. So look, it's one of those offers that Sinatraa is definitely, like, there's a 0.0 recurring 1% chance this guy's going to accept this offer, because he makes that salary probably in just a few months of streaming, if not even less than that, with some sponsored stuff in there as well. So there really is no reason for Sinatraa to, kind of pack up shop here where he is, go over there to India, play for their team, and do all that. But it is just indicative, I think, what's more interesting, of a lot of these leveler players, the Sinatras of the world, getting offered stuff like this. And look, a lot of organizations might come out and do this from the APAC region. We even saw not long ago, you guys might remember the story, might even be thinking about this, that Yay, right, was offered $1 million. So this is, we're talking 7 figures. And this is one of the offers that, okay, Sinatraa might think, you know what, okay, that merits consideration, especially because Yay obviously had other offers from Tier 1 teams. He went to go and join, Cloud9 in the end was on OpTic before that. So that was kind of, for Yay, it was like, all right, do I take this $1 million offer from an APAC team? Maybe there was rumors that it was like Bleed Esports. I'm not sure we ever got to find out exactly who it was, but he decided, and it felt more sensible to him, to stay in North America and play for Cloud9, as it turned out to be. But similar offers, of course, to a much lesser extent here with Sinatraa, are getting given to players like Sinatraa, and, look, a lot of those organizations out there, you know, they want to get a big name player like Sinatraa into their team. Understandable, makes sense. But as it stands, you've got to wonder whether similar offers might arise in the future, not exactly from APAC, but also from other teams, right? Because there's been some, you know, especially with Rossi going to FaZe and with, you know, teams in Tier 2 making changes, I'm sure they've at least considered, and the players on those teams would have at least considered Sinatraa. Whether their organizations want to bite the bullet and go for it, that of course is a bit of a risk. But yeah, seeing these offers come through from various sources does imply that, you know, at some point Sinatraa might get, you know, some team in Tier 2 will probably at one point say, you know what, we're kind of crap, let's just see if Sinatraa wants to join us. He might say no, but the interest is still certainly there from various sources. Also, just wanted to shout out here to Lil Bro Tarek before we close out the video, because over the last couple of days he's set up very successfully this pro city TenZ, getting a load of pros. This is like 10 mans, right, not TenZ from Sentinels, getting into, basically you get pros into a lobby and they play what would be ranked but between each other. So they pick captains, I'm guessing they pick captains and they kind of pick their teams, or it's just randomized. But whatever they do, it's kind of a good alternative for pros to get around the issues in ranked play, and you know, I think it's just great for the scene in general. So very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.